What it do, Crew Excellence? I'm back, your favorite Crew Excellence member, Justin Strickland, the hostess with the mostest. And so we're going to jump into another wonderful episode. You know what the rules are. If it's just me, pull your notepad out. It's time for you to learn something. It's time for you to get better and for you to grow. I think I got something very interesting to talk about today. I'm going to talk about middle management, okay? This is something that I think has been more at risk since COVID, okay? Prior to COVID, middle management was always important. Of course, people had personal issues with their bosses and things like that. But I think when COVID happened, companies and employees began to think of like, what do you do? Right? And really to kind of focus on, are middle managers important? Are they valuable? And how do we interact with them on a day-to-day basis, right? And a lot of that was because in COVID, a lot of people got to work from home for the first time ever. And so middle managers realized that they couldn't micromanage as well. They couldn't dictate as much of your schedule, what you were doing. And people realized that even without them middle managers looking over them or being present, they were still being pretty effective at getting work done. They were still producing results. And so it became this tension where it's like, bro, I don't need you. Like, I can do this without you. And even companies may even begin to cut some of those middle management positions because they felt like they were extra salary that they could save, right? But I think that middle managers do have a place, but I do think there are some issues that they face. So we always come to these topics from a leadership perspective, right? We always looking at this from how do these people develop as leaders and what does their leadership styles look like so that they can be effective as leaders. So that's the perspective we're looking at middle management for, right? So I just say that because I know I got some people who are financial people or whatever. I ain't talking about corporate structure. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about we have these people in place, they're in roles. How do they lead well? How do they lead with excellence? Okay. Middle management, let's define it. I'm talking about people that are in between the senior decision makers and the day-to-day staff. Okay. So whatever that looks like within an organization. So that could be a vice principal, an assistant manager, or even a manager. If they don't have final say so on decisions, okay? So you tell them something, they got to tell somebody else something, okay? Those are the people we're talking about. Or you tell them something and they relay their information to someone else. That we're talking about those people in that position, okay? This is one thing that's very interesting. When I think about positions that burn out, they almost all kind of fall into this middle management area. Usually people that are in senior level, they don't necessarily burn out. They might be workaholics and stuff, so that might keep them from burning out. But also, they usually make enough money to where they can justify their work. And then the people, day-to-day staff, they usually love what they do. So they're more passion workers. And so they can usually even disregard poor management or leadership above them because they love so much what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. But it's these kind of people in the middle that aren't necessarily doing what they love to do, but aren't necessarily making money to do what they're doing. And so if they're not doing it well, they become overwhelmed and they burn out. One of the reasons is a lot of them the reason that they were promoted to middle managers they're pretty forward-thinking people. They're they're almost always self-starters or let me not say they're almost always. Some of them are self-starters. Some of them are very good at following rules and understanding what's being told for them to do. And so they follow the instructions well. They can be like company people who are like really good at capturing the culture of the company and doing exactly what you ask them to do. They can be people that are people pleasers, right? A lot of people pleasers end up in middle management, and it's because they are working overtime to keep everybody happy. And so they're like, hey, you will be good with people. So they put you over people. So sometimes people pleasers end up in middle management. And the issue is the people that decisions affect, middle managers directly interact with every day, but they don't have the power to necessarily make those decisions. And so there are people that different policies or different changes in company culture and that stuff will trickle down when they make those decisions. The middle managers go report those decisions. And the people that those decisions affect then are able to go back to the middle managers and report back on these different changes. Well, the issue is middle managers don't really have a lot of say-so in why those changes were implemented, what the changes were. They're kind of caught in the middle. thus their name, right? So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place a lot of times. Another reason is a lot of middle managers are often really involved and invested in the people that they're serving. And what I mean by that is they want the people they manage to be happy. They want them to be successful. And a lot of times the things that their team communicates to them that they need, middle managers struggle to get them. And so it's almost like you only got $100. Everybody know you got $100, but everybody keep asking you for $1,000. Right? And you want to give this $1,000 to them, but you just don't have it. And that's kind of what happens with middle management is you want the best for your people. They're telling you this is what is best for us, but you don't have the power to move past the point where like, I agree with you. Now, like a lot of times middle management, that's all they can say. You're right. I agree with you, but that's the policy, right? And so they have to be gymnasts in a sense in flipping through, staying on company culture, right? Because middle managers have to kind of walk the line of being like, they're company men or company women, where there's like, they have to support these different policies and rules to a certain extent. But then they also have to tell people how they really feel, right? Like you can't just, when you come middle management, you don't stop being a person. So they have to tell people how they really feel while listening to how other people feel and try to pull all that tension together. Right? And hold it together. And it can be an issue, depending on who you're supervising, right? Especially if you're supervising people that might be overqualified, right? And so they are overqualified for their job. And a lot of times they think they can do what the decision makers do. And sometimes they're right? Like sometimes they are. I mean, they have experience doing what the senior decision makers are doing. And so when they get a decision that don't make sense to them, they come to you and you like, I mean, I agree with you, but what you want me to do? And they like, change it. And they like, and you like, I can't change it. Right? And so it can be tension there. It can also be tension if there's people that have been around for a long time and they're stuck in their ways and new stuff comes out and you can't necessarily explain exactly why we're changing. People that are like, this is what I've been doing for 5 years, for 10 years or whatever. Why are we changing? You can't say because I told you so. You can't say, but management has to say it's because they told me so. Right? Like that's a lot of times is because they told me so is the answer. And that don't really sit well with adults. Okay. And so that is some of the difficulties. Another thing that happens is all the data and tracking and retention and all that stuff. A lot of that stuff falls on middle management. Senior executives often take, credit for hitting different benchmarks for like quarterly or annual benchmarks. But the people that are weekly or monthly being checked on for those things are middle managers. And so a lot of them feel stressed because they have certain numbers they're supposed to hit, rates of return they're looking for, and retention things they're tracking. And so they're trying to keep up with all this data because that's how their performance review is handled. They're judged exclusively by like, what data do you have? How did you get it? What is the support? And those kind of things really matter for middle management. The reason that it can be hard for them is because the people that you're managing really don't care about that kind of stuff. Like they care if they're going to get paid and they're doing good at their job. They don't necessarily care what numbers that senior management told you to reach. Because a lot of times they don't agree with those numbers being indicators of them being successful. So like an example is, say you work at a clothing store and y'all have a certain number of clothes you're supposed to sell every day. Someone working on the floor who's folding clothes, who's working the register, can feel like they did a really great job and y'all didn't sell enough clothes today. Right? And so, but the manager, the assistant manager or whatever, they're going to be asked what happened today. Why were we so much below our number? There's tension there because he has to go figure out. And if I'm on the floor and I'm like, man, I folded all the clothes well today. I had great customer interactions. I asked people if they needed help. Man, I don't care if we didn't sell no clothes today. I did what I was supposed to do, right? They have a detachment from the result that necessarily middle management can't have. And so there can be a lot of tension. I keep saying tension because it's a word. Middle management kind of exists in that world, but it can be a lot of gray where middle management can try to find a way to get more out of someone who feels like they're already doing their best. And so that can cause some disdain for middle management. People go, oh, here this dude come. He already know what he on. Right. It can cause some of that. And it can cause the people working under you to blame middle management for issues that aren't middle management's issues. A lot of times middle management don't pick what they get tracked. They don't pick these success indicators, but they have to perform and reach them. And so they're being judged by a standard that they didn't even want or create. So I wanted to lay that down. What's the issue? What middle management is? So let's talk about how we can create excellent leadership that exists at that level. Because it's my belief that everybody's a leader. So from senior leaders to middle management to day-to-day employees and everything in between, everybody is a leader. And so although middle management sometimes feels like they're cut at their knees or that they don't have the things needed to be at their best self, there is a way for them to be excellent. And so let's talk about that excellence and what it looks like. One, you have to create value. And so what I mean by that is company language and structure has to create value for people at their position. And so the people that work above them and the people that work below them need to understand their value. And that needs to be communicated to them. Because a lot of times what will happen in middle management, which is why they burn out, is they don't feel valued. They don't feel like they are important to the bottom line of the company or to the future of the company. And so they decide to leave. And what happens when middle management leaves is you lose on all the relationships they had with the people. And a lot of times senior executives don't see that. They don't understand that. They think middle management just is a glorified babysitter. Sometimes that's kind of the ideal that senior management has with middle management. But real good middle managers have relationships with the people they manage. And it is those relationships, it's that capital that is able to help them be successful and help the company be successful. A lot of times people stay at companies because they like their managers, right? Or this has happened even more today. A manager will leave a place and they call them, hey, I'm at a new place. You want to come? 2 weeks. I'm over there with you, right? And so you got to make sure that everybody in the company knows what the value of this role is and why this person means so much to the company. And you got to tell that to them and the people around them. What else you got to do? Middle managers, what you have to do is you have to define expectations. So you have to clearly define what you expect from your team, so who you're managing, and you have to get your definition of what someone expects from you. So those are the two things you need to find. What does senior level execs expect from you, and what do you expect from the team you're managing, right? And that needs to be clearly defined. And you need to have a say-so in both of those things, right? So if an executive coming down to you, this is what we want from you, you need to be able to say, okay, I know you want those things from me. These are the issues with that. So can we take that off the table, leave that as a soft goal, and these are the things that are hard because I already know X, Y, and Z is going to be an issue when trying to. You need to have that kind of say so. And then when you go to your team, these are my expectations. What do you all think? To be an excellent leader, you need to not only know what your expectations are, but we're talking to grown-ups. Why are these your expectations? Okay? So, perfect example, Chick-fil-A. We expect you to say my pleasure. Well, why? Because we want our guests to believe that you are enjoying serving them. We want them to have an experience, and when they believe that the employees at Chick-fil-A enjoy serving me. Okay? That's an expectation, and I just told you why that's an expectation. Okay? We need to wear the same uniform. Why? Because we need to look as if we're all on the same team. These are just different expectations, and the why is very easily reached. A lot of times middle managers don't want to take time to do that because they feel like it's time wasted, but it isn't. If you take time in the beginning to define your expectations and tell why they are, it'll save you time on the back end, okay? Communicate your own limitations and humanity. Too often middle managers want to prove themselves as superheroes so they can move up. The way you move up is to be humble enough to ask for help and to communicate what you can and can't do. And so when you're working with your team and you're laying out different things and you're talking through different things, you have your huddle or your team meetings and you're going over what the expectations are, where you are on the week or the month or your goals for the year, you have to tell them, these are the things that I can control. So if you need help in one of these areas, come to me because I have a lot of control in this area. These are the things that I really don't have a lot of control over. And so if you have some issues, I'll fly it up the chain, but I want to let you know that I don't have a lot of say so over X, Y, and Z. Communicating that keeps your team from fighting you on something that ain't got nothing to do with you. Okay? Everybody hates getting blamed for stuff that they didn't do. And so middle managers are not an exception to that rule. They don't like it, but a lot of them just don't know how to avoid it. Well, this is the way you avoid it. Hey, I see what you're saying. I understand where we're falling short as a management team, and I'm going to have a talk with them. But I want to let you know, I don't have a lot of power over that. And so I'm going to go have a talk with them, let them know how we're feeling, and I'll come back and let you know where we're at. Okay? And that communicates, I hear you, I understand you, I empathize with you, but at the same time, I don't have a lot of power over this. And that way they know who to direct their anger at. Be mad at my boss. I don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? It's his fault. Be mad at him. All right? That way, when they are mad at you, it's your fault. Okay? Cause you're not perfect. It's going to be time when you have some disagreements or you believe something and they disagree. I'm not saying avoid conflict, but I'm saying make sure conflict happens at the appropriate time. Okay? And then the last thing is middle managers need resources. If employees are asking questions of middle management and they come to you, this is for my C-suite, my executive, and they ask you questions, you need to give clear answers. You can't because we said so middle management. Okay? You have to pull the veil back and say, this is what's going on. This is what we're thinking. This is where we're going. And so if they have questions, here's your resources to answer those questions. Because that's what middle management is. That's why they exist, is to buffer those questions so that you don't get bombarded with them so you can do your job every day. So give them the resources so they can answer these questions. Give as much power to them as you can, right? They should have as much ability to make decisions as possible within your corporation. So if there is something that you can give them that they don't have to come to you for, give it to them. Don't hold on to it. Like, give them the authority to make some decisions so that they can grow, right? Decision making is a huge way to grow because now you have to live with the consequences of that decision, good or bad, right? So that employees respect them. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're middle management over me and you can't do nothing, you don't get to make no decisions, I'm like, hey, bro, why am I even talking to you? Get big homie on the phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even need to talk to you, right? I'm going to just go above your head every time because you don't have no decision-making power. So you have to give them some so that they can have some respect, okay? And you want to give them resources so that they understand how to manage them, right? I'm all about developing for the future. If you got people in middle management, you need to have a track for them to develop, to ride, to move on. If that's within your company or outside of it, you need to have a way for them to learn things that are a little bit above their pay grade. So you're stretching them, right? And that way they can have tools and resources that if a position opens up, they are ready because they've been cultivated within your organization, right? And even if they leave, right? This is the thing. Companies, you want people who leave your company to still talk well about you. So if they leave your company and they go get a better opportunity, they'll say, hey, I really loved my time there. They helped me learn this. I'm a better this because of that, right? I'm only able to be a C-suite employee here because of what I learned at middle management at my former company. And so if you're looking for a space to grow, I would recommend that will happen. They'll recommend you even though they don't work there anymore if you've given them space and room to grow and develop as leaders, as people. Okay. And so I think that ultimately middle management does have a place in the corporate structure. I think that we have to reimagine what it looks like. And we have to make sure we pipeline it. That's the thing too. You got a pipeline within your organization. You have to, from the day someone walks in on the lowest level, they have to be able to see room and a journey to move up to the next step, right? That's the whole thing about the ladder, right? Is I'm trying to give you the blueprint to move to the next step, the next rung on the ladder so that you keep climbing. That has to happen within corporate structures too. And organizations and teams or whatever, you have to show if you do these things, you can grow to the capacity of this level, of this position. Even if we don't have it open here, when it does open, you'll be ready, or you have the tools and skills to go get that position at another place. And because more now than ever, employees are skill stacking. They're trying to learn as much for the next opportunity. Would that be with you or with someone else? And if you do it well, they'll never leave you a bad review. They'll send people to you. There might be people that say, hey, I can no longer do this because I'm going to take this, but I love what I'm doing here. I'm going to recommend someone to come do what I'm doing so that you can save money on recruiting and hiring, right? And so all those things kind of roll into a beautiful cake of middle management can work. Okay? It can be effective, but it has to be intentional. No longer can you put people in positions and just say, hey, listen to what they tell you to do because I'm going to tell them what to do. That part, that ideal that is gone. As the baby boomers retire, that is going and going and going and never coming back. Okay? And so I hope you got something today. I hope that it was beneficial if you're in middle management. Some tools that you can have. For those that are executive level, I hope that you learn some things that you can do to improve your middle management and give them value. And for those who are working underneath middle management, I hope you show them a little grace, right? Their job is hard. But also, I hope that you understand kind of what's going on with your grievances and your issues and your requests. And now you can find a way to navigate that so that you can have space to flourish and room to grow as well. It's always a privilege. I mean, just the fact that you hang out with me, I'm just so honored. Like, I'm the coolest kid in the world because of y'all. And so I want to say thank you for joining me today. I hope that you got something from this podcast today. And I'm just going to enjoy being your mama's favorite Crew Excellence member. Okay? Until we meet again. I'm out, man. Peace.